Hey everyone, I just wanted to welcome you to another episode of Gray Squirrel Patriot, but this is a special episode. It's our Friday happy hour, and I am joined today by Mrs. Gray Squirrel Patriot.
Hello.
And we thought we'd make this a little bit more fun, a little bit more free form. Usually it's just me doing a monologue going off about something in the news, but we would decide we would cover a couple of things that we're seeing both in the news and some of the other subjects that we wanted to include on this channel. For starters, we're going to cover today's big news, but then we'll get into some of the lighter things. So, what was the tagline you came up with for this? Politics.
Politics, pop culture, paranormal.
There you go. It's kind of like what beats Bears and Battlestar Galactica for the Office fans.
Right.
But anyway, big thing right now is we've been looking around. Actually, we were looking at right before we started this was that President Trump has been indicted, and the indictment was unsealed today. So now we're seeing that. I'm still trying to go over that. I'm still trying to read up on exactly what they're indicting him on. Initially, earlier today, I had seen something about conspiracy. I'm like, well, how can you charge someone with conspiracy without, charging another person? Just by definition, it involves two people or more people. But now I just saw something that today they have indicted President Trump's valet on conspiracy charges as well. Again, I'm very interested to see what they're going to claim he did. I want to take a look at all this. I mean, it's been pretty obvious to me, and I think anyone, that the media, the DOJ has been targeting President Trump. And it's kind of ironic. We got all this stuff out there about Hunter Biden and the big guy, President Biden, and this is where we're going with an indictment. We're indicting President Trump on, as far as I can tell, it's about his possession of what they are considering classified documents, which with the president, he can say, no, I declassified those. That's it. There's no paperwork he's got to fill out or anything like that to declassify a document. He could say, I did that. I thought about that before I walked out of the office. The Oval Office, I thought about those documents, and that's why I took them. And that's the end of it. There's nothing that they could produce that would be evidence against that. Even if they had like a recording of him saying, no, I didn't declassify that, he could say, yeah, well, after that recording, I did declassify that. Or I thought you were referring to another document. So this is really a farce. And it's a non-issue, and it's clearly election interference. I mean, they are doing this with the intent of preventing President Trump from running again. And something. I think in some ways they would rather face President Trump, because I really think Ron DeSantis would be far more difficult to beat in the general election, honestly. Because I think, for as much as I like President Trump, and I know you're a big fan of President Trump. In fact, actually, back in 2016. If I recall, I had voted for someone else in the primary, and you had voted for President Trump in the primary, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking around, and I want to say this about President Trump. It's not that I was one of these never Trumpers that are out there. There's a lot of people that are like that, and a lot of conservatives that were like that, and that wasn't the case for me. For me, I didn't trust him to be a conservative. And what I mean by that is, for all these years before, I always saw him hobnobbing with all these liberals, like, the Clintons and stuff, which a lot of businessmen do that. A lot of businessmen, they play both sides of the aisle because they kind of need to. And I get that. but I wasn't sure what his conservative credentials were. I personally, anyone that's listened to me kind of has figured out that I'm a very conservative person in terms of my politics, but you are too. Actually, I was, one of the things I noted about you when I first met you, and that was pleasantly pleasing, but a pleasant surprise actually, so anyway, though. I really think, getting back to this, I really think that Ron DeSantis would be far more difficult to beat in the general election. I mean, I like President Trump, and I firmly believe a second term of Donald Trump would be great for America and very entertaining to watch, because he would just go scorched earth on everyone. And I would love to see that. I would love to see the swamp drained. Literally, I would love to see him clean things out. And I think, with President Trump, when he first got elected, he didn't quite know how things worked in Washington, and he didn't know who to trust. And he brought in some of, the typical rhino Republicans and all that, and those things didn't work out. And he got some bad advice. And I think at this point, he's got it all figured out. And I think that's what they're scared to death of with him. But again, there are a lot of people that I know just don't like him. My mother is one of these people. Not that she's a liberal or anything like that. She just doesn't like Donald Trump. She doesn't like the way he talks. She doesn't like all these things. And talking to my mother sometimes about politics is really like, beating your head against the wall, because she can't grasp that, when you're out there, when you're voting for someone for president, you're voting for really an administration. You're not voting for a person or a personality. You're voting for an administration, the people that this person will appoint to all the various agencies, and the judges this person will appoint. And, I tried to explain that to her. You don't have to like the person. And, I said to her, I'm like, oh, so you like Joe Biden better? And she's like, well, I didn't vote for him either. I'm like, oh, okay. So, what'd you vote for?
Write somebody in.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, my mom lives in a state that was going to go blue anyway, so it's not that it matters. Which also, she has that in her head that her vote doesn't count for president anyway, because the Electoral College. And I've tried to explain that to her too. I don't know if you've been present when I've tried explaining this.
Yes, several times.
Yeah.
She just doesn't want to hear it.
Yes.
She just has her own opinion, and that's all that
that's it, and that's fine. She's entitled to that, especially at her age, and we'll leave it at that. But
right.
Yeah. So I personally think if President Trump was taken out of the race, which I'm not so sure this will remove him from the race, I think this will just fire up his base even more. But even if they manage to take him out, Ron DeSantis, I think, would make an insanely great president. And what's even worse is Ron DeSantis knows how to work in the world of politics. And so it's kind of like you want to say to the Democrats, be careful what you wish for, because even if they do manage to take President Trump out with this, which I think this is all nothing. And something today, immediately I saw that Ron DeSantis actually had an interesting little statement on this. And when I saw it, I was like, this is perfect. This is a perfect example of how this man thinks about things in terms of, the politics. And rather than going out there and sitting there and saying, the president, I'll be a better president than Trump, and he's guilty and don't vote for him. He attacked the DOJ. His statement is this: the weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to a free society. We have for years witnessed an uneven application of the law dependent on political affiliation. Why so zealous in pursuing Trump, yet so passive about Hillary or Hunter? The DeSantis administration will bring accountability to the DOJ, exercise political excise political bias, and end weaponization once and for all. That is an outstanding statement about this. He didn't say, well, Trump's guilty and, Trump needs to get out of the way. He needs to drop out of the race. That would be foolish. Okay. Instead, he's standing up as a Republican, as a conservative. And yeah, he got his little dig in like, the DeSantis administration would deal with this. But this shows you he is a politician, which I know that has negative connotations, but it means he knows how to act appropriately, which in so many ways, like I worked in the political world years ago, and so much of President Trump that I enjoyed seeing him, but he'd say stuff and I'd be like, don't say that, don't say that, don't say it. He said it. Okay. It was entertaining, but at the same time, it's like, no, you don't say those things. And seeing him even somewhat baited by the media. Now he works, things work to his favor that you wouldn't think would. So, who am I to, question him or, say anything? I think President Trump is more of a showman, and he knows how to manipulate the media, use it to his advantage. And, that will kind of play into something we'll talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, so I don't want this to be a monologue. I want you to jump in, So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it was really awesome the way that Ron DeSantis handled his little quote there about what he posted on Twitter and how he was not, saying anything hateful about Trump or going into that, kind of area where it would just make it be awkward and make it look, like he was trying to say bad stuff about him. And I kind of secretly would love to see them kind of work together and somehow do something. And I know that neither of them would want to, like have Ron DeSantis be the VP or something like that for the candidate or whatever. I think that would be amazing. And then, he could walk right into that after, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool to see that they are, or that at least Ron DeSantis is not going there being, hateful and nasty.
Yeah.
And he's just being very professional about it,
Yeah.
what he's saying instead of what he could say.
More professional in some ways than President Trump, because
Yes.
President Trump has
been out
there.
That, but yes.
Yeah, well, he's been out there attacking Ron DeSantis, calling, I forget what he's calling. That's me opening a beer. Sorry about that. This is happy hour. So for anyone's information, I am drinking a Yingling. Before that, I was drinking a Narragansett. That's one of the local beers to where I'm from. If anyone's ever seen the movie Jaws, that is the beer that Captain Quint is drinking and crushes the can. And so that's one of the reasons why I love that particular beer, Narragansett, because of Jaws. I'm a huge Jaws fan. And so I just actually finished my last one before we started, just as we started. And now I've switched over to Yingling. You can bet I won't have a Bud Light or any Anheuser-Busch product.
No.
So anyway, what's funny is Narragansett. I don't know what their political views are, and that's the point. I don't know. Okay.
Yes, we're all glad we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're based out of I don't know if they're in Providence or Providence, Rhode Island, but you know what? Being in that area, I would presume they're probably a little more left-leaning, but you know what? I don't know. Yeah, sure, they're out there doing the usual Pride Month stuff in the past, although that seems to be a little toned down with them too, and that's another thing we'll talk about. But
yes,
getting back to President Trump and Ron DeSantis, I think it's great that he has actually come out, made an excellent statement about the whole thing. Some of the other presidential candidates out there have not made such great statements or slow to make them. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Nikki Haley. I
Yeah.
I am not
Kind
a
of.
fan of her.
Me either. I'm kind of all set with her.
Yeah, she seems a little desperate actually already at this point.
She's trying a little too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was one of the things too, is you touched on this too, is I would have loved to have seen a Trump DeSantis ticket. That would have been ideal. And that was one of the things too, I think, and this is where I was a little annoyed with President Trump, is he was out there attacking like anyone else that's throwing their hat into the ring. And let's face it, if you're going to run for president, even if you don't think you have a chance at winning in 2024, you sort of put your name out there, so then you're in the driver's seat in 2028, or you're considered a viable candidate in the next go around. And I think President Trump is not seeing that. He's just seeing these people like, oh, they're running against me, hate them, and he really should just he's got to think about the next election too, or thinking about really down the road. Even though if he runs, would be his last term. If he won, I think it'd be his last chance anyway, even if he didn't win, because of his age. People are already questioning the whole age thing with Joe Potato there. And so I don't know. What are anyone's thoughts on this? I'd love to know how people are, thinking. Does anyone like some of the other candidates? I think Tim Scott's going to be one that will be fun to watch. I think has the potential to be a totally legit candidate, and again, a totally legit candidate in 2028. He might be even looking to be a VP candidate too. That's some people, that's their thing. Hey, maybe I'll get noticed and be brought into an administration, or even be picked up as a VP candidate. I noticed I think I saw something that Kristi Noem up there in South Dakota was also throwing her name in, and I had seen that she was thinking about it anyway a while back. And I think her problem may be more along the lines of name recognition, and being from a small population state such as South Dakota, that might hurt her. But again, she's going to have to work and get her name out there. I everything I've seen about her, I like her. I don't know a lot about her, but I've noticed her, when she was doing a lot with President Trump back during when he was in office. So that'd be interesting to see. I noticed, Larry Elder's out there running. So I mean, we could go through the list. There are people I've never heard of running too. So whatever. But again, they might be doing it right now for the name recognition. Yeah. And, a lot could come out of that for them. And that's why I wish President Trump would understand that, instead of, going scorched earth on them like he did, little Marco and low energy Jeb. And
low energy Jeb.
I know.
He had a name for everyone.
I know.
It'll be interesting to see his names he comes up with for this batch.
Yeah.
Too,
Yeah, even in the end, he started attacking Ted Cruz, who was also very careful not to attack President Trump during that election.
Yeah,
and then he got really nasty with Ted Cruz, who I personally liked as a candidate also. I really liked Ted Cruz. When we talked about him, he was like, he said all the right things in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's something, the poor thing. I mean, he has a lot of like really good things to say, and he really, he's good, and it just all of that stuff is good. But there's something about him that just seems, I don't want to say creepy, but there's like just something that kind of makes you not trust him. Like, I don't know if it's his face or
Yeah,
what,
his face.
right? Which is not nice for me to say, but there's just something about him that just like, I don't know. But he like checks all the boxes. He just something, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
know. I know.
I would vote for him if he was like the person to whatever, but I mean, I'm kind of glad he's not out there doing that because I don't really
Yeah.
want that. But I don't know. There's just something about him. I'm sure he's a really nice person, and maybe it's just
I
how
mean,
he's portrayed. I don't know.
even some of his campaign ads, I was like, oh, you're awesome. He had this one that he wrapped bacon all around the barrel of a machine gun and he fired it, and and just
Yes, that was awesome.
yeah, I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. You got my vote. Yeah,
He is very badass. I'll give him that. But he's just a little freaky, but that's okay.
Yeah, I actually at one point when he was kind of the last Republican standing, I honestly thought Trump's people would have cut a deal with him just to get him out, get his endorsement, and I figured it'd be something like, okay, for a Supreme Court nomination, you got it, something like that, because I think he would be amazing on the Supreme Court. The lefties would lose their friggin' minds over it, but he would be awesome in the Supreme Court. But anyway, well, I don't know what else to say about this indictment. I'm annoyed with it because this is, to me, election interference right off the bat. Back in 1992, they were the FBI was already looking into Bill Clinton and some of his dealings down in Arkansas. And there is a lot of stuff out there about a lot of the shady stuff that was going on in Arkansas that goes back to him. You can look on YouTube. There's actually a story about these two young boys that were found dead on train tracks. And there's even something that goes back to him on that. There's things on YouTube about that. And President Bush actually told them to back off on investigating him once he started becoming a legitimate candidate. Not because, and that's, he could have easily said, yeah, keep going, or ignored it, not even said anything on it. And instead he told them to back off. Because
it's amazing how it's changed.
Yeah.
Like now it's like everybody's goal in life is to just destroy everyone.
Now, this is a classic Democrat thing. They don't care about who they hurt, what they destroy, as long as they get to be in power. Really, it's like power at all costs. Then they run around saying, "Oh, you're destroying democracy," as they're doing it. They actually are always doing everything that they accuse the conservatives of doing. They're actually doing those things. That's my observation.
It's the end of the Republican Party all the time. They always say,
yes, every time the Republicans suffer any type of losses in an election, it's always, could this be the end of the Republican Party? The media is saying that. But, when the Democrats get their heads handed to them, oh, well, this is just an anomaly. This is just a blip on the screen, really. I can't understand why the message wasn't getting out. That's it. Remember how, President Obama, when something didn't go his way, it was like, oh, I wasn't clear enough when how I explained, this issue here. That's all. Because you'd love it if you were just, smart enough to understand it, but, that's, oh, well. Anyway, I'd like to actually move on to some of the other stuff in the news. And this is kind of leading from politics and heading towards the pop culture stuff. And I want to talk about Tucker Carlson. He actually came out and did his first show on Twitter. And the views are like insane. Last time I checked, it was like 90 million views, which I understand on Twitter, it's not really like a view. It just popped up on someone's thing and they scroll by it. but there's, I saw Mark Dice talking about this where he said, if you see 90 million views, you can break it, about 15% of it is, people watching. But that's still, that's an insane amount. If you even break that down, 15% of that, that's insane. Or we'll call it 100. That'd still be, almost 15, million people watching him. That's more viewers than, he got when he was on Fox.
Yeah.
And to the point where now Fox, I guess, has sent him a letter saying he needs to, cease with this activity and blah, 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 and all this stuff, which, they're scared of him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered.
Right.
Yeah. And
it's not like Twitter's paying him.
Yeah,
either.
exactly.
He's not getting any money for that.
Yeah. So what is Fox going to say? Oh, you cannot go out and express your opinions, but you also, we're paying you. And all he has to say is, well, you know what? I don't want your money. Okay.
It's insane that they think they can muffle him until 2025. That's ridiculous. Until after the election.
Yeah.
No one is going to just not work and whatever and take money from somebody who's trying to destroy them. I just don't think that that's going to be happening.
No.
As much as Fox thinks it is.
I think Fox has Bud Lighted themselves, as they're saying.
Yes.
It was, they were like, hold my Bud Light, as they went out there and fired him. And I think it's exploding in their faces. I think they honestly thought that they could pull this and it wouldn't matter to their viewers. And clearly it has. They have seen insane drop off where they're getting beat by MSNBC every night. That's insane.
It's sad.
Yeah.
They should feel a lot of shame.
They should. And I would think that my understanding is that Rupert Murdoch's kid there, who's really running things, he is a liberal. And I understand that he and Rupert Murdoch absolutely hate Trump. So that's their other thing, is they don't want to see Trump win, which, again, I think would be foolish on their part from a business perspective, because everyone went to Fox News because, they were not anti-Trump. I know for me, I always watched Fox News, and it was election night in 2020 that we were sitting there and what is going on with Fox?
Yeah.
I mean, I was I'm disgusted with the way they were handling things, and we stopped watching Fox then.
They called Arizona and we were done.
Yeah, we were done with them. They called Arizona instantly before CNN. And I'm like, what is going on here? And it seems that a lot of people were all set with Fox at that moment. And I remember, seeing that there were some issues there and they were trying to fix things afterwards because they alienated their fans, their viewers. And we started watching a little bit again because Tucker was still there.
Yeah. We
started watching a little bit here and there, and they, I occasionally put on the morning show, and and I'm like, well, all right, I'll put this on, and then when they did this with firing Tucker, that was it. And done.
Yeah.
Done. I won't even watch them on YouTube. And there were a lot of people there that I did like. And I mean, one of the people that I always liked over there was Judge Janine.
And they're messing with her now.
Yeah, over some book that she's written that they won't even let her go out and speak about it.
Yeah.
I hope she leaves. I hope she bails out of there. I'm a little surprised Sean Hannity has hung on there.
Yeah.
But other people on there who I'm pretty sure are conservatives, I'm waiting for them to bail.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people, they've been there their whole careers, and that's not Steve Ducey and Brian Kilmeade. Kilmeade even does a radio show for Fox Radio, and
he's got something on Fox Nation too, or something.
Yeah.
I guess
Fox Nation's doing wonderful, aren't they?
Yeah, weren't they doing that? Like get a month for free or something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah.
Oh, I think if you're a veteran, you get like, for a year free or something like that now
Free for
too.
life.
Well, I saw also they're advertising that they're going to have like a gangster movie thing, which you would love, actually. They were going to have a
I
whole
would love that.
gangster movie. Yeah, this whole gangster movie thing on Fox Nation. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, it's not going to be news or it's not going to be commentary on news. It's going to be gangster movies. Okay.
All right.
So I these streaming things, I always figured they wouldn't work out because there were just too many of them. I think they all of a sudden came out, and it happened to be that a bunch of them were popping up during the Rona,
Yeah.
and at that point they were getting, a
No
lot
one
of
had anything else to do.
yeah,
To
people
just sit
home.
around because we were like locked in our houses and
Yeah.
told we were going to die. So
Yeah, okay.
whatever.
Anyway, we never signed up for any of that.
No.
And it was, to me, it just seemed frivolous. But also, could not imagine people would go out and get 4 and 5 subscriptions to all these things.
Right, cable's expensive anyways, but you're going to pay more so you can get less channels, but they're special content.
Yeah.
And each one of them is like $12, $15 a month. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I knew that wouldn't survive, and actually Disney is experiencing that with their whole Disney Plus and Hulu. We actually did try. We tried Hulu.
And it was ridiculous. There was nothing on there. Everything we looked for, they didn't have it. Nope, they didn't have that. It was so dumb. I would never try that.
We tried like that. It was like a free 7-day thing, and we hated it. And we're like, I can't believe, no, we're not going to use this. And that was it.
Not that I love paying a lot of money for cable, and I really would like an alternative. If you have any suggestions of an alternative thing, please leave them in the comments because I would love something else to try. But I can't work with all the streaming things and all that. I don't know, just too expensive. It's too much crap to take, keep track of and pay. And I don't know. Hulu was horrifying too. I did not like that at all.
Well, speaking of, these, cable channels that, want you to subscribe to cable, then get their special streaming service. I think Fox Nation's going to completely fail. Like, I think most of these are going to fail. And I think all that will be left in the end will be Netflix, which was the original, because that's what they are. And I think some of these other ones, who knows, maybe like the Paramount one, maybe Disney will keep theirs going. But from what I understand, they're losing subscribers right and left as it is now.
If they don't come up with some decent content that isn't complete crap, then they're not going to have anybody having Disney Plus either. I mean, if they don't come up with some original ideas and something that isn't just absolutely, completely destroying all of the stories that we all love and grew up with, then that isn't going to work.
I agree, but one of the other ones, if you want to talk about a flop of a, streaming service was, remember CNN when they had their CNN Plus thing?
Oh yes, it lasted for like not even a month.
Yeah, they might have hit 6 weeks. They might have hit six weeks.
He just couldn't work with that.
They were giving it away. Like, if you sign up for 1 month, we'll give you the next 36 months free, because they were just trying to get people to sign up.
Right.
So it wasn't such an embarrassment. And, they fired their CEO then. And that's actually not even why they got rid of him. That guy, Zucker.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of him because of, I don't know, a fling with another one of the executives there.
Yes.
Although that was probably the excuse, and the real reason was because he just drove that, once, prestigious news channel into the ground. I mean, it was already on the downward spiral, but he really, sent it downward. Mm-hmm. And, the new owners of it, they put this guy in named Chris Licht, and I just learned this now. They just fired him this week also. That was one of the other news stories is they got rid of him, and I think everyone kind of knew he was on his way out. I think he knew he was on his way out. And you know, I don't know much about the guy, but actually when they got rid of him, I saw that they had gotten him from the Daily Show. That he was some executive over there, producing like the Daily Show, and I'm like, did no one else see like the problem with taking a guy that did fake news
Right.
and putting him in charge at CNN, who's accused of fake news?
Yeah.
Like I'm really sad that I didn't know that before while he was there, so I could have had a lot of fun making fun of that.
Right.
But it just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, okay. And at first I thought he was legitimately trying. I saw him getting rid of some of the more obnoxious people there. Starting with what's his name there, Brian Stelter.
Yes.
They got rid of him. They got rid of Cuomo. They slowly.
Don Lemon.
Yeah, they had to do it slowly with him, and they created that that morning show and moved him down to that. Then everyone saw what a real psycho he was and couldn't interact with people. And,
he just kind of took care of himself from there. It just was a complete disaster.
He's claiming he's going to come out with his own thing like Tucker.
Oh, okay. That'll have a lot of views. I'm
sure. I'm sure he's got quite the fan base.
Hmm.
But anyway, this guy, Chris Licht, I think he was trying to clean out some of the, the people that were probably had the bigger paychecks. And some of the stuff he was also trying to do was he was trying to bring them back to being somewhat of a at least legitimate news station. And you got to figure with CNN, I think a lot of people lose sight of this too, is like CNN is like Fox, that's all they're supposed to do is news. Okay. I know Fox has a bigger network, a TV network. I don't know what the connection is there, how separated or how connected they are. But, there was a Fox network, or there is a Fox network, and, there's local news stations that are Fox affiliated. And so I'm not sure how connected it is, but CNN was nothing like that. It was strictly news. They had CNN, then they had the headline news, which was just a constant, half hour, headline broadcast and just on, content, which, that was great.
I wish they still had something like that. So you didn't have to listen to all the bull crap. And you could just listen. I mean,
They took it and they called it HLN. Okay. And then they started showing like, shows on it, like different productions on it. So it's like, okay, so you gotten rid of that. I mean, that was like years and years ago. I used to work in, public safety. I worked in a night shift, and we had a TV, and I'd have that on, the whole time. Not because, you're watching it, but, it's there. You could look up at it between, when things got a little slow and stuff like that. It was just a constant thing, especially when you're in a public office too. It's not improper to have the news on, and something like if someone walked in or something like that. But from what I understand, they transformed that into something that wasn't selling, which I mean, we saw all the, starting with MTV stopped showing videos,
right.
years ago too, which, whatever. But anyways,
even the Weather Channel doesn't even have weather half the time.
I know.
Stupid shows, right? Sorry.
No, you're right. They have shows about like tow trucks for some reason. I don't get that, but okay. So, but anyway, this guy Chris Licht, I thought he was trying. I know he was actually reaching out to a lot of Republican senators, trying to get them to come back on to CNN, and good for them saying, if you're going to be so leftist, we're not going to be on there. And I mean, they were just really obnoxious. I mean, the fact that they even had Chris Cuomo on there interviewing his brother, like there was no one there that saw a problem with that.
And remember, he would be on every day
Yeah.
during the height of the Rona.
I remember you couldn't stand
Oh
him.
my gosh, it was like the Cuomo show. You
Yeah.
know, he loved it. He just sat there. It was like he was like, you know, Dr. Phil or something.
Well, he
having
kept
his show.
repeating himself too. It's like, wow, this, you know, I mean, they obviously had a teleprompter, and I know they use small words for him, you know, but it was just like talk about someone who's like really not that bright, you know.
Yeah, very unself-aware. Yeah,
But,
that's him.
yeah. Oh goodness. All right.
And they got rid of the licked guy because they had Trump. He had Trump on his little thing, right?
Yeah, that was the thing. You know, I thought that was, hey, he's reaching out. We'll do a town hall with President Trump.
Town hall. That's
yeah.
what I was looking for.
And the people at CNN, the staffers lost their friggin' minds over it. How dare you give him a platform? The man is a former U.S. president. He is a presidential candidate. Whether you like it or not, you're supposed to be a news station. And these people just can't grasp that. And that just, and he was basically defending himself to them to the point where he was saying, I'm sorry I did that. Wow, you lost control there, Chris.
You'd think they would be thrilled with the ratings that they would get, like the people watching that he was there. I mean, whether it goes with their freaking narrative or whatever, I think the fact that people actually did want to watch CNN at that, you know, for that amount of time, you would think they'd be thrilled, but I guess not.
Do you remember, like, this, while President Trump was in office, we saw a little thing with little Brian Stelter. They were at some sort of thing where he was on a stage. It was like maybe at a college or something. And he was sitting there with, was it Ted Koppel, you know, who is a veteran newsman who, you know, he was one of those great ones. I don't know whether he was a conservative or a liberal. He was sitting there with Brian Stelter, and he literally said to Brian Stelter, your station, your channel would be in the toilet if it wasn't for President Trump. And Stelter got all like in a huff. He's like, oh, you're just trying to get some laughs or something like that, you know.
Like, yeah, that's it.
You know, Stelter. Oh, God, what a pathetic. Anyway. And he was right. As soon as President Trump was out of office, CNN's ratings were gone. I mean, the people who hated Trump at least tuned into CNN to see how much CNN hated Trump, you know? And I mean, you saw it every time, you know, President Trump said something, they would just lose their minds. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, how many times did they have that Michael Avenatti, the creepy porn lawyer for
CPL.
Yes, creepy porn. That's what Tucker Carlson used to call him, CPL and creepy porn lawyer and all that. But they had him on like over 100 times or something. It was,
and he's in jail now. So
yeah. Well,
good work, CNN.
But the point is like they're so wrapped up in their like, you know, beliefs that they are somehow activists, not news media people, that no, ratings don't matter. Okay. Ratings don't matter as long as we keep Donald Trump out of office. Mm-hmm. And to the point where CNN is just gone. Like I was starting to say, it's not like they are a network where they had something else to fall back on. You know, MSNBC, you know, they have, first of all, they have the business channel, and they also have, but they have the entire NBC network. Mm-hmm. You know, CNN doesn't have that. You know, they're supposed to be news, and you know, and at one time they were so. You know, I remember way back during the first Gulf War, they were like the place to go to for news on that. And they just completely made a joke of themselves to the point where they just, Clinton News Network and things like that. I mean, they really did. They made a joke of themselves to the point that they destroyed their brand, and they were doing that before Bud Light, long before Bud Light, right? They, yeah,
They
maybe.
lighted themselves years ago.
Yeah, they should be like, you should be calling it CNNing.
Right. Yes.
But anyway, so, hey, whatever. I'm not going to keep beating that into the ground, but they got rid of this guy, Chris Licht. So it'd be interesting to see who they put in his place and what they do from there. I mean, if the next person that goes in there starts going back to CNN's old ways, well, I would think if you want to go back to those old ways, you probably should start writing checks to the, Donald Trump presidential campaign, because they need Donald Trump to, in office if CNN is going to have any success. I mean, unfortunately, the people there are too wrapped up in themselves to understand that, but oh well. So I didn't know if you wanted to move on to the paranormal section here.
Sure. Yeah.
One of the things that when we started this channel, we wanted it to be a combination of things, obviously the political stuff, but we wanted it to also get into mysteries, whether they be sort of maybe like a true crime type of mystery, or just some, I figured like maybe missing person mysteries or things like that, historical mysteries, but also touch on the paranormal stuff. I am one of those interested skeptics, I like to call myself, where I personally, I look at things, I'm like, that's interesting. I want to learn more, but I want to get to the bottom of the mystery, not perpetuate the mystery. And I think you've always been kind of the same way.
Yes.
You always ask a lot of the same questions. And, it's like, well, what could this be? Not like, oh, well, let's ignore obvious answers so we can pretend it's a mystery. But one of the things that you've always been fascinated by were the crop circles. You had told me that early on, and we've watched numerous documentaries on that. And
yes, paranormal stuff was actually kind of the thing that we sort of bonded on when we first met each other.
Yeah, when we first discovered that. Like,
we were like, oh my God, you love Bigfoot and UFOs too. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we've always kind of had that interest sort of in common. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of those things, I was scared to share that about me.
I was scared to let you know too.
Yes.
That, yes.
Yeah, and you were scared to let me know of your love of llamas too.
Yes. I don't let a lot of people in on my love for llamas, but after a little bit, once you know that I'm weird already, then I'll let you know.
Okay. So, but anyway, getting back to the crop circles, we just watched a really good thing recently by one of our favorite YouTubers. If anyone's ever checked them out, it's called the Y Files. And the guy over there is this guy named AJ. And
Hecklefish.
And Hecklefish. Can't forget Hecklefish, his little sidekick. And if you haven't watched the Y Files, check them out. Not that my channel needs to it needs to do anything for him. He's on YouTube, and it's I think he's got like over 2 million subscribers. So the odds are a lot of people are already listening to us who are watching over there. He should be saying, "Hey, check out Gray Squirrel Patriot."
Right, they're awesome.
Yeah, that's it. He's really not political, although I will say, as I've watched his videos, he definitely leans to the right,
or at least Hecklefish is right leaning.
Yes, yeah, but I'd say both of them are more in the probably conservative libertarian camp. Maybe we'll say leave it like that. And but he does paranormal stuff. He does kind of like just weird mystery type things also, though. And he does a really, really great job with his videos.
Yeah.
Comes out with a video at least once a week.
He does like insane amounts of research and on all of his things. He is just he's great.
Yeah, and his videos, are usually half hour, 45 minutes long.
Mm.
So, it's not just a quick little thing, but he gets out there and he did this really great one on crop circles. And I've always been kind of curious about crop circles. As I said, you've been into them more than me, and
Yeah.
you have an artistic background, so I think maybe that's what draws you to them. And
Mm.
what is it that you like about them? Or
I just have always thought that they are so, like, some of them are so intricately, detailed and really, like, even like the mathematical, uh, like the design of them are so, they're very precise, and they're some of them are beautiful and humongous, and there is no way that some person could have possibly have done them overnight. I mean, we've seen several documentaries on them now of different ways that they could have, that nobody knows how they are created, but there's a lot of theories, and it's just, some of them are so detailed, and there's no footprints around them, there's no tracks, there's no people driving out into the middle of the field, as you can see. It's just like all of a sudden they appear, and I just think they're so cool and they're
Yeah.
so beautiful and huge, and there have been so many different kinds of them in different places, and I just think they're really interesting. I've always been very intrigued with them.
I think what gets me with those is that they've been reported for years. Now, there was a certain point where they were appearing more and more frequently, like in the late 80s, early 90s. And as far as I know, maybe it's died down, or maybe they're just not as reported as much. But they've been reported all over the world. So, but what happened was, back in like the late 80s, early 90s, there were these two old guys came out and said, yeah, we've been doing them. And the media just bought it. They're like, oh, that's it. Case solved.
I mean, they literally even said that they pole vaulted out into the middle of the field. And they're like they're old. I mean, I'm sorry, but no. I do not believe that. And even some of the things that we've seen, like the way that the grass or the weeds
Stalks,
or whatever,
yeah.
the stalks are like they're blown out, like from the middle. I mean, there's no way that somebody with a piece of wood and a string stepping on it is going to make it that quickly and that intricately. And I'm sorry, but I do not believe that those guys do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing that AJ was talking about, with that it could be sound waves making them.
Yeah.
And that seems to me really one of the best.
Very logical. And
yes, where they could do it really quickly and like hover over it and then make whatever this sound is that they do. And it like even showing like we saw the like sand,
the patterns.
yes, the pattern.
I forget what
sand.
that's called, but yeah, it does. There's a certain resonance to it.
Yes, and it puts it in this really cool design, just like some of the crop circles that they showed.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, imagine that on like a huge scale of something gigantic that could do that. I mean, to me, that seems much more likely than some person out there doing that. I really do not believe that it's a person. No. I don't care, even if it's like 90 people. How are they all getting out there? There's no prints, no nothing. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no. Well, it's also, I think, what was one of the things that even AJ touched on was in the so-called real crop circles. And my understanding is the people who are into that, who study them, they can distinguish between what they call a real one versus one that was just made by some hoaxers that go out at night. And there are plenty of those. There are plenty of people who do that.
Yes.
But they could, like, afterwards, once the field is even mowed, it's like the area is still affected. And
yes, there's even parts that are like almost braided in and weaved woven, or something. Like, it's really insane. And it's huge, big, very sharp lines, and like there's no way that some person is doing that.
No, not on some of those. And I'm intrigued. I'd like to know more. I don't know a lot about this, so I don't want to go off. But I'm not going to sit here and say they're from aliens either. I think people. I think that was one of the things with crop circles because I think your initial ones were round, so people were like, oh well, flying saucers around and
They just like hovered over it and did their
Yeah.
thing.
So
That's kind of in my mind. I think that, but I don't know. I'd like to think that it's something cool like that, but you really don't know.
I think it'd be cool to think that way, but I really, I could be realistic, and but the side of me that's skeptical is like, I think it's one of those type of things where we can like legitimately look at, you know, sit back and like the idea of the sound stuff is interesting, and that could be something coming through. I mean, something either maybe even seismic coming through the earth and creating it, but why does it happen in certain areas?
And they had that other person who took the actual designs and then made them into a 3D image, and from that it made like different mechanical things like that looked like UFOs, or it looked like some kind of machinery or something.
Yeah.
And it was really crazy to see that some guy, I can't remember his name now, but he took the image and just 3D'd it, and it made these really amazing like machinery crafts, all these weird things. It was really very cool. So who knows? It could be something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's cool to think about.
It is. One of the things that AJ touched on, which I thought was really interesting, was pointing out the involvement of British intelligence with
the disinformation.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if you're a fan of that type of stuff, definitely check out AJ's thing. But at the end of his video on the crop circles, he started getting into one group that was a group that claims to go out and make fake crop circles.
Circle makers.
Yeah.
Yes.
They seem to be funded by MI5, which is the British intelligence agency. I believe MI5 works. They're kind of like more like the FBI in the sense that they work on things within British borders, where MI6 is more like the CIA, where they're out there, trying to recruit and gather information from other countries. MI5 works locally either to capture, spies within British borders, but also I believe they also run psyops, disinformation campaigns, which I think that was really interesting. And he presented a lot of interesting evidence of that, which was like, well, why would they care about that? That's the curious thing for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess maybe there's something more to this, which, looking at that, that's what I thought. I'm like, wow, ordinarily I'd be kind of like, okay, we need some more information on the crop circles. But once I saw the involvement of them in a group that makes fake crop circles, I was like, well, why?
Yeah. He also mentioned that movie Mirage Men with that guy in it. I can't remember his name.
Doty.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how he messed with that other person and just made him believe something different so that he wouldn't look more into what he was researching.
Well, it was also to spread like disinformation with that guy. If no one's seen the documentary Mirage Men, it's about this guy who was with the Air Force, not their intelligence, but they're actually their like investigative police, sort of like the FBI of the Air Force. And he actually went, this other guy was a contractor with the Air Force, and he picked up on some radio bursts, and he figured out that they had information in them that, you know, he recognized. He was enough of an expert in electronics to recognize that these were data bursts. And as he noticed this, he brought it to the attention of the Air Force. And rather than the Air Force saying, hey, you know, thanks, you're a good American for bringing this to our attention. This is obviously a breach of our, you know, security to let this get out. They used it as an opportunity to spread disinformation to the point where they drove this man insane. And it's really disturbing. And now this guy Doty, Richard Doty, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He gets out there and now he goes to these, you know, allegedly he's no longer a part of the Air Force, and he looks like just like this little dweeb. You know, you want to wring his neck. He just,
It's very weaselly.
yeah, Weasley, that's probably it. And he gets out there and he goes to these UFO events, and, you know, and to a certain degree, the UFO enthusiasts don't believe him, which I'm glad they don't. But some people are willing to listen to him, and he's always saying now, like, no, I'm no longer involved in it. I you know, I really care about this. Like, well, how could you care about it if you were out there spreading disinformation? Why should we believe you now?
Yeah.
You know?
Mentally torturing this poor man.
Yeah.
That was your job. I
Yeah.
mean, give me a break.
And the thing is,
disturbing.
it is. It's very disturbing. Which, you know, there's that saying, you know, the best way to conceal a fact is, or conceal a lie is between two pieces of truth, you know, and that's probably what they're doing. And they're probably spreading some things that might be truthful and other things. That's why, like, even right now, all this stuff, like, all of a sudden the federal government is all like, oh, wow, we're all into UFOs or UAPs now. All of a sudden, instantly, like, wow, that's interesting. And they keep showing this footage from, you know, the, you know, taken by the Navy, the Nimitz video. And I'm like, you know what? They're a little too into this. I'm more thinking that this is something to justify spending for something else. Mm-hmm. This isn't really, and, you know, the other thing is, too, as they're talking about all this UAP stuff, you know, they have no interest in looking at some of the older UFO cases that were quite compelling, you know, but these older ones from the past that they rejected as, you know, anything else but potential extraterrestrial stuff. They rejected them outright, but they have no interest in looking at those now. You know, but they want to go forward. Oh no, we care about this. Yeah, something's up.
Yeah.
You know, classic case, follow the money. I'm willing to bet you that this is something being pushed by one of the defense contractors because they're going to make money. You know, this guy, Alessandro, can't even think of his name right now. He's been appearing everywhere on like various TV shows talking about it, every news article you see, and I don't trust him. And, you know, some things I've heard about his background is disinformation. So why would he be in charge of investigating UFOs? Mm-hmm. You know, why would he be the guy the Pentagon tapped to investigate these UAPs? Don't you think you'd tap? First of all, you know, you'd tap someone that maybe had a, you know, physics background. Yeah, you know, maybe someone who has an aviation background. He has none of these things. He's an intelligence guy. Okay. Yeah, I'm not so sure I buy into that whole stuff with all the UAP stuff.
Yeah, they won't even call them UFOs. They're now UAPs, which is what? Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the name change because, you know, so often people would see stuff in the sky. Are you seeing an object or are you just seeing lights? Or are you seeing, you know, a cloud? You know, It's not really an object per se, you know. So I don't mind the change like that. Although that's also a way they would get cute because, you know, people do the Freedom of Information Act requests. We want all your information on UFOs. Okay, well, we gave you everything on UFOs. Not our fault. You don't know that we call them UAPs now.
Right.
Yeah.
And UFO makes you sound like you're crazy, and
Yeah.
UAP makes you sound like you're more, modern or whatever.
Well, and that was the other thing too, is the federal government actively worked to make the subject of UFOs like a joke.
Yeah.
They went out of their way to make it into a joke. At one point I saw that they were even trying to tap Disney into like working with them to make it into more of a joke. This way back.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm a little put off by that. But I know we wanted to talk about the crop circles today, but we got a little off track with the UAPs. But I don't know. What does anyone think about all this? I would love to hear anyone's thoughts, from the political stuff to, um, the crop circles, CNN, Tucker Carlson. If there's anything else you'd like us to talk about or give our thoughts on, I'd be happy to do so. Do you have any final thoughts? We probably should end it. It's been a little more than an hour, I guess, for us.
Yeah.
And we called this happy hour. And
I think it's been really fun. It's been nice to kind of talk about stuff. And if you have anything you want to suggest in the comments for us to talk about, I think that would be great.
All right. Leave your comments, subscribe, share this with friends.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. We're trying to get this channel off the ground. We're trying to get some videos out. We're going to try and get on a schedule where we're putting them out on a regular basis, but we also want to keep up with whatever is the issue of the day as well. I think we'll probably be doing these Friday ones regularly. So tune in. Anyway, thank you for watching or listening. And please give us your thoughts. Okay? So thanks for coming.